On the table right now we have two watches. One is the Apple Watch Series 6. It comes directly from Apple and costs around £410. On the other side we have the Watch D, a £60 Apple Watch replica. Now for a seventh of the price they look pretty identical, right? Well, just how different is the Watch D? Let's find out, shall we? Hello everybody, my name is Robert and this is Review Clue. Now, I'm going to try really hard to not make a terrible joke about this company's name, but knowing me, I will probably let it slip at some point in this video, so if you want to see that, keep watching and stick around. If you guessed that the white watch was the cheaper Watch D, you would be correct, but quite honestly, on first glance, it was hard to tell. This replica is incredibly well done. Touring the device, we see the display up front, with the bezels that are slightly bigger than the ones found on the real Series 6, but as a replica, I think it's pretty good. We have that lovely curved glass display and aluminium body. These are all premium materials and it really gives off that Apple Watch look and feel. Along one side we have two speaker cutouts. Only one is actually functional though. Although on the other side, this is where we see the biggest difference to that of the actual Apple Watch. We of course have that digital crown which on the Watch D works as a button, but there is no rotational input. So you can't scroll in and out and scroll up and down on content. I can understand why this was omitted here, especially for that £60 price tag. However, what I found more strange was the omission of the secondary button. I really don't get why this is missing here. They've already replicated everything else from the Apple Watch. Why not replicate this button as well? It makes navigating the UI a little bit more difficult than I would have liked. Flipping the device around, we see that glass back with the text curving around the sensors. Now, Watch D claimed that this can not only just do your heart rate, but also do things like your blood pressure and others, thanks to a lot of sensors in this bag. How true this is, we will find out in due course. Stick around if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about those sensors. The watch strap is perhaps the least premium part of this package. And yes, it looks very much like the Apple Watch, but feels and looks a little bit more flimsy than its more expensive counterpart. And that's because, well, it is. Thankfully though, they are incredibly easy to remove and replace, thanks to having no real mechanism to hold them in place. So you can just literally slide them straight off from either side and replace them with any Apple Watch compatible band. That's a pretty nice feature that we can swap out with any other bands. But with the ease that I can swap these out, I feel like on any kind of real vigorous exercise, particularly boxing, these straps are gonna fall off quickly. So in terms of looks, there's really nothing to complain about here. I have no problems with the way that this looks. I understand the term imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but I think even in this case, for me, it's a bit too far. I really would have liked to have seen a little bit more originality in the design of this watch. However, if you are looking for an Apple Watch style watch that you can wear wherever you go and match it with whatever your outfit you're wearing, then this is a really cheap option to allow you to do so. Before we continue with this review though, if this is the first time that you're seeing my face on your screen, then 1, lucky you, and 2, go down there, hit that subscribe button, smash that bell notification icon so you get notified every time I upload. Software is arguably the thing that makes the Apple Watch the Apple Watch. And Watch D know this too, so they've tried their best to replicate every single feature that the Apple Watch can do. Just how successfully have they managed to do it? Well, let's take a look at that software. Powering on the watch, we see the rather gay Pride background, and I approve. Obviously we have the time, the date, and our step count displayed nice and big. Long pressing brings up a range of watch faces you can use, each a copy of one of the Apples. As we look at some of these, the resolution of the screen becomes apparent. It's very low resolution. Obviously for most people this lower resolution won't matter, but it is something to keep in mind when ordering. Each watch face is just a static image. They may seem to have widgets like the activity, but each one is just fake unfortunately. I'm sure it really wouldn't have been that difficult to make them interactive, but I feel like this was just a corner that had been cut. Swiping down, we get the quick controls for Bluetooth, battery, timers and other useful functions. Swiping to the left, you get into the workout modes, and we'll talk a little bit more about those later. Swiping up, we get different notifications. Being a smartwatch, this does display them, and that's a fine enough experience. Unfortunately, there is no way to reply to them here, so it is just a static notification so you can read texts without having to get your phone out. If you did want to reply or interact with any of these notifications, you would have to do so on your phone. Finally, swiping right gets you the app drawer. And again, we see where the design cues are from here. This is actually a very similar design to that of the Apple Watch. Swiping around the apps shows the responsiveness isn't great. It's actually usable, but coming from the Apple Watch, it really is a little jarring. Let's go through a few of the apps here because there are just so many of them, I won't be able to cover them all in this video, but let's do some of the highlights. We have the shutter to help you take pictures remotely, the stopwatch, calculator, motion controls, music, find my phone, sleep, heart rate, calendar, music, call log, stand, exercise, and even blood oxygen. That is just to name a few. There is a lot to go through here. And actually, I was quite impressed by the sheer amount of features that this watch claims to have built straight in. Let's quickly talk some of the health options here, particularly the heart rate, blood pressure, and blood oxygen. All features claim to work off of the same single sensor. I would be very cautious of listening to any of the results that you get from this watch though. During my extended workouts, I did find that they were fairly accurate, particularly the heart rate was very accurate to my Apple Watch while doing an indoor cycle and doing an outdoor run. So the heart rate you can certainly trust a little more than the other two. While we're on health, we have a ton of sports modes this can track as well, including all of the normal categories. No swimming here though. The device does claim to be waterproof, so not having a swimming tracking function was a really strange choice for me. We can see plenty of really useful statistics while we're working out. These include the time, heart rate, calories burnt. This is of course all synced to the app too, so you can view it all at a later date. While walking and running, you will also get advanced metrics like your pace. So that's all really nice, and it's all pretty standard stuff that we would see from a watch of this style. In terms of smart functionality, I think this watch is just okay. It's certainly not its main purpose, and well, that shows. Many of the apps, including the calculator, are fiddly to use, and call quality, though not unusable, is certainly nothing to rave about. As a fitness tracker, however, I think this is very capable. Its sleep tracking can track your light and deeper sleep, and just give you a roundup of how you slept that day in a really nice and easy to view way on both the watch and the app. This is something that Apple wasn't even doing up until the last version of watchOS, mainly because of those battery life issues. So to see it here is actually giving it a one-up over some of the Apple Watches, particularly the Series 3. So how is the battery life? Well, I found that I could get 3 days worth of battery out of this thing, and that's pretty impressive. It's certainly not as good as some of the other smartwatches that I've reviewed in the past, but for the sheer amount of features that this watch does give us, 3 days is pretty good still. Charging this thing is just a magnetic 2-pin prong. At least they didn't copy that from Apple. We don't get a disc here. It is a little bit more fiddly to actually set this in place. It will only sit one way round. So once you get used to it, I suppose this charging will be fine, but for the first few times you'll probably have to pull it on and off a couple of times before you actually get it charging. The companion app, M Active, is very easy to use, but a somewhat generic app. The main screen shows step counters, as well as all your health graphs at a glance. Clicking them gives you a bit more of a breakdown of just how you're doing over time, for instance, your sleep. Sports mode lets you start a generic GPS-based workout. Not particularly useful, but it's there if you want to use it. And the device panel allows you to find your watch if it's lost. And that's it. It's an incredibly simple app, and I'm sure many people will be left wanting a lot more from this app, particularly in terms of the data that this watch can capture. It really does seem to lack in ways that we can view it and export it to external applications such as Strava or Apple Health. Overall though, what do I think? Well, for just £60, I think this is actually an incredibly good deal. We got so many different features here that are even not available on some other devices like the Fitbit. For such a low price point, I think it's pretty good. It is of course very much a stolen design from Apple, but if you like that style, then you're going to love this watch. It's very much a Marmite. You'll either love it or you'll hate it. For me, there are just some features that I can't live without on the Apple Watch, so this is something that I will not be moving to full time. But let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of this watch. Do you think it's something that you will buy and you see yourself using full time? Anyway guys, my name's been Robert, this has been Review Clue, and I will catch you in the next one. Adios.